All right. So destructive versus non-destructive adjustments. The permanent destructive adjustments are up here under image adjustments. All right. If I want to change the saturation of this image, I can go like this. I can change the saturation so it's more of a magenta-ish feel, more of a greenish hue. Increase the saturation there. You can burn it out a lot. I press OK. I want to make it a little bit lighter. Okay. All right. That is a permanent image adjustments. All right. It is applying it. You can't undo that. If you start doing a bunch of other things, you can't turn that off. Right? If you come back later and say, you know what, really I don't want the background to be this pinkish color, pink and orange color. I want it to be blue and yellow. You can't undo that without going backwards and losing all the other steps that you've done in between. All right? But I prefer to do an adjustment down here. And this is where I'm going to be able to turn on my adjustments and turn them off. Initially, it looks like exactly the same thing. Go to hue saturation, and move it over here, increase the saturation right there. Go to lightness to there. Sure, right? It looks exactly like the other one, right? But if I start doing other things in here, like that, right? I do all those things, but then all of a sudden I say, hey, you know what? I don't want that to be pink anymore, right? How do I turn that off? I am going to come over to here. I'm going to click that right there. And that allowed it so I didn't have to undo my steps to get rid of that pink magenta tint in there, but rather just turn it on and turn it off. And then I could decide whether or not that's something I want, right? So that is a layer adjustment, and we're going to talk about this a little more in depth, hopefully. What time we go to 3:15? Probably more likely next class. But, okay. What did I do? How did I do this? All right, so I went back to my rasterized layer setting right there. All right, so going back up to the destructive one, I'm going to select the layer. I'm going to go to image. I'm going to make sure I have the secretary bird strutting one. Set up, image, adjustments, brightness, contrast, right? This is going to allow you to make an image brighter or darker, to make it more dull or increase the contrast. But you can see it's applying to the image as a whole. You can also, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, you can also make a selection of something. Like that. And then I can make an adjustment within that selection. All right? I can increase the bird's torso there a little bit more, or dull them out. Whatever I want. All right? The brightness contrast is going to increase or decrease the brightness and contrast of the image. All right? Levels is going to allow me to adjust kind of the levels of the brightness in the image. First thing I do is I will take one of these scroll bars and I'll bring it to kind of more towards the beginning. So you can see, I think you can see. I really can't see much on there. By bringing this scroll bar over here to the bottom of this, arc right here, it does increase the contrast inherently a little bit more. And then I can take the center one and I can adjust it this way and that way. I can click. Oh, maybe that's in. And I can move these things around until I get something that contrast that I think is more inherent to what I want it to be. Right there. Okay. Stronger contrast. I'm going to move this back over this way. Move that right to right there. It's a pretty good picture to begin with. And press OK. All right. There's also adjustment of the hue and saturation, which we did briefly. Here I can adjust this scroll bar. You can see it's kind of affecting it in many different ways, making it more psychedelic, whatever you want. I can also adjust it based on specific colors. So if I want to adjust only the reds, I can do that. If I want to adjust only the greens, I can do that. Sorry, a lot of greens in there. All right, saturation of colors in there. The reds. Like that. You can make it monotone by clicking colorize. And you can have your sepia image right there. There's the saturation on that. You can play around that. That would be one way to kind of make an image or a layer single color. So you're going to do image. You're going to have to reduce your images down to your layers down to single colors, right? Now, the one way that I'm suggesting right now is to press image, hue, saturation, and then colorize. And then based on the hue scroll bar here, you can kind of move it around. And if you have a selection in there, you can do it that way as well too. Like that. And then you'd be able to copy that layer and paste it or duplicate it and get it as a whole new layer by itself. The lightness on the hue saturation, should it need to be adjusted here? If you already adjusted it under the brightness contrast adjustment, okay? So if you adjust the brightness here to where you want it to be, and then you come to adjustments and you click hue saturation, all you're doing is lightening it up more. All right, you've already done it once. It's the same tool in two different, same function in two different tools. Something along those lines, right there. It's fun, right? Adjustment layers. This is where I like the idea of the adjustment layers. Now I can make a color adjustment for 6 different hues on these 6 different layers, right? So I'm going to choose left leg, and I'm going to come down here. The color adjustment looks like a black and white circle, right? It's called Create New Fill or Adjustment Layer. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to choose Hue Saturation, and I'm going to click Colorize. It's this layer right here. I made that one red. I'm going to keep that there. And then I'm going to leave that alone, right? And you can see what it's done is that it has placed this white box, and this is the adjustment on there telling it's hue saturation, and that's a layer, that's a mask right there, on top of this leg. But what you need to do, you don't need to, well, it depends on what layer you're working on. Inherently, if I want to get this to window to box pop back up where I can adjust these kind of hues and saturation, lightness and darkness, I'm going to make this a little bit darker so you can see it. I double click on this symbol for hue saturation, which kind of to me looks like those film reel things. They have a movie sets. I double clicked on that. But inherently, the layer adjustment makes it a layer adjustment for all the layers beneath, in the layer panel, beneath the layer that was selected, right? So I'm going to back up. I'll show it to you the different way. Okay, go back to there. I'm going to go into left leg 3. Let's say I want to make left leg 3 the first one I'm working on. I'm going to come to layer adjustment, hue saturation. I'm going to choose colorize. You can see that it adjusted all 4 of these legs. But I only want it to impact this one right here, right? So for me to do that, what I need to do is I need to select this button right here. It's going to say, what's it called? This adjustment affects all layers below. That's the name of the button, okay? I'm going to click on that, and you can see that it is limited only to that layer, right? So if you want to apply it to all the layers beneath the layer selected, then you leave it alone. If you want to apply it to only one layer, then you click this button with this box and this arrow pointing down, right? And that's applied to only one right there. We'll leave that alone for now. So there you go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into each of these legs. I am going to apply a quick color on to these really quickly so I can get a rotation of different hues. And your colorize, I don't know which ones I did. It's too close. Oh, that's the problem. Yeah, there you go. See, I screwed it up myself too. All right. Layers. That's the next one. Adjustment. Colors. Magenta. Reduce that. And then one more, 2 more layers. Left leg. Hue saturation. It's confusing because dark blue. And then one more. Hue saturation. Alright, so now I have my bird with, what's that, 6 different hues in there, right? Going around there right now. So